Right, this one's haunted Ireland for nearly 40 years now. A 13-year-old lad named Philip Cairns leaves for school for his lunch, just like he's always done 100 times before. Goes home, grabs a bite to eat, then heads back to class. And that was it. He vanished into thin air. Not a single confirmed sighting after he stepped out of that front door. Gone. No struggle, no scream, no CCTV back then, and no answers. Only questions and one school bag, found in a place it shouldn't have been. It's October the 23rd, 1986. We're in Rathanfam, a quiet suburb in South Dublin. Leafy streets, school, families. Nothing that would make you think of any danger. Philip just started secondary school at Collaistina. Bright lad, quiet, gets on well with other kids. His family said he was kind and thoughtful, loved football, and loved playing with his younger brother. That day, he leaves school at 12:50 for his lunch break. Same as always. Walks the short route home to Ballyrun Road. Nothing out of the ordinary. He eats his lunch, picks up his bag, tells his mum he's heading back. And the time was about 1:30 p.m. And from that moment on, no one ever saw him ever again. Just imagine that. You're 13 years old, wearing your school uniform, grey trousers, grey jacket with black shoulders and your school pullover. You walk out of the door, full school bag in hand, and it's like the world swallows you whole. Philip's parents ring the alarm bells straight away. The Gardaí, the Irish equivalent to the police, get involved sharpish. Big searches, forests, rivers, parks. They even bring in divers and psychics. Nothing. But 6 days later, something strange happens. Two young girls walking through a laneway near Philip's house find his school bag just lying there. Now, that might sound quite helpful, but here's the creepy bit. That lane had already been searched multiple times. And back then, people didn't just miss a bright blue school bag in plain sight. So what does that tell you? Someone went back and planted the school bag there. They checked inside the bag, and it still had his pencil case, his maths book, school journal. However, some items were missing. His geography books and his religious education books were both missing. Why? I guess nobody knows. The bag gave no DNA, no fingerprints, no nothing. It's like the person who dropped it knew exactly what he was doing. And they never wanted Philip to be found. So from day one, this case has been very strange. Not just because a boy vanished in broad daylight, but because of how clean it all was. No clues, no suspects, and no body. Just a timeline with a hole in it, and a family left with no answers. His mom Alice said she used to leave the light on in the hallway every night, just in case he came back through the door. His brother Eoin, who were only 11 at the time, still remembers playing footy and fishing with him back in the garden. And nearly 40 years on, they're still waiting. Now, let's look at some of the theories. The random stranger. Now, on the surface, it makes sense. Maybe some evil sod pulled up in a van, offered him sweets and dragged him in. That's what the kids at school were whispering about the very next day. A man in a van. Classic horror story. But the detectives never bought it, not really. Why? Because of the school bag. Whoever planted that bag, days later, in a place already searched, they were too calm, too clever. It wasn't random, it looked more like someone who knew the area. Maybe even someone Philip trusted. Theory 2, someone local, someone he knew. Former detective Alan Bailey, who worked on the case, mentioned it wasn't a random snatch. Whoever did this was familiar with the area. Comfortable coming back to drop the bag where he'd found it. And think about it, Philip was a good lad, not likely to get in the back of a stranger's car. But a neighbour, a teacher, a friend of the family, that's different. There's a deep chill in that though, because if it's true, then the monster was right there in plain sight. Theory 3, the satanic panic. This one's a bit wild, but back in the 80s, you couldn't move for talk of satanic cults and devil worship. It were all over the news, in Ireland, in the UK, even in the States. So naturally, the media started whispering. Was Philip taken for a ritual, a sacrifice? However, there were no signs of that at the scene. No symbols, no candles, no red paint, no creepy writing on the walls. But fear, well, that spreads faster than the facts. It is, however, possible. But if it was, what kind of person does that? Who would have had access to a vulnerable child, the right setting, and the sheer gall to cover it up for decades? That kind of evil takes organisation, secrecy, and most of all, silence. Theory 4, Eamon Cook, the dodgy DJ. In 2016, 30 years after Philip disappeared, a woman came forward. She claimed to have seen Philip in the studio of Radio Dublin. Why does that matter? Because that station was run by Eamon Cook, a convicted paedophile and violent offender. Not just a creep, a very dangerous man. She said Cook had hit Philip with a blunt object. Cook was questioned. The police said he admitted knowing Philip, but refused to say anything more. Then, get this, he died. Took his secrets to the grave just weeks later. DNA from the school bag didn't match, but he's never been fully ruled out, and some believe he's the key. But you've got to ask yourself, how did he meet Philip? Was there any connection, or did someone bring the boy to him? Theory 5, the false confessions and red herrings. Like every big case, there were loads of fake leads. One woman said her ex, also a known abuser, admitted to killing Philip and burying him near a golf course. The police spent days searching the woods, with ground scanners and geophysicists, but again, nothing. No evidence, no remains, no charges. It was another dead end. So where does that leave us? 5 theories, none proven, but all chilling. But here's the hard truth. Someone, somewhere, knows exactly what happened. And maybe they've been carrying that secret for nearly 40 years. Maybe they live quietly, hiding in plain sight. Or maybe they've passed away, their silence brought by time. Whatever the case, they left a hole in a family, in a country, and in a little brother's childhood that never got its ending. Philip's mum, Alice, still leaves a candle for him every night. She's a grandmother now, but her voice, when she talks about her son, hasn't changed in all these years. Still soft, still full of hope, and still searching. So, if you know anything, now's the time to speak out. Say something for Philip and for his mum. Alright, that's all I've got for today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.